It's time now for Important Moments in Bryce Board Gaming History. This week on the segment, I want to tell you a story. Many years ago, while I was still playing Star Wars Minis, I managed to fill up a punch card for a local game store that entitled me to 20% off a purchase. I decided to get a couple of board games, so I browsed the shelf and selected two just because they looked cool. One was Starfarers of Catan, which I got because I liked Catan, and I like space themes. Solid logic there. I still have that game, though I haven't played it in years. The other game I purchased that night would become the more memorable one, though for all the wrong reasons. That game is an obscure election simulator from Mayfair called Road to the White House. I didn't know anything about the game, but I was young and idealistic at the time and thought it looked like an interesting game. I remember reading the rules for this game and after finishing them thinking, man, this game is going to take forever. BGG lists this game as 4 hours, but I think that's a pretty generous lowball figure. I decided to streamline the rules, leave out some of the more tedious parts, and left in what I hoped would be the most interesting parts. Ready with my new and improved rules, I set up a date to play the game with my wife and our friends Kim and Dan. We played games every week with Kim and Dan at the time, and they became the first couple that my wife and I played regularly with, a tradition we've kept up with various couples since then. Kim and Dan were just starting to get into board games at the same time as we were, and, looking back, some of our most memorable experiences were some pretty crappy games. Like the Order of the Stick adventure game, a tedious 3 to 6 hour dungeon-crawling slog of agony. But Road to the White House made that one seem like a pleasant, brisk Sunday walk by comparison. I left the game set up on one of my gaming tables, and we played it half an hour or an hour at a time each week for the next 3 months. There's one interesting part of this game, the candidate creation process at the beginning. But it's all downhill from there. Even with my new and improved streamlined rules, the game was still mostly an exercise in tedious record-keeping and accounting. Lots of fiddly bookkeeping stuff in this game. The only reason we kept on playing all that time was because it became an obsession to say we finished it. We didn't want the game to defeat us. We wanted to defeat the game. By the end, we didn't care who won, though I totally did, thanks to my victory in Florida, ironically, on an anti-elderly platform. You see, the stupid game didn't even make any sense! But finally finish it we did, and with great glee I put it away in the corner of the basement, never to see the light of day again. Until years later when I sold it at the Gen Con Live auction. I got a whole $1 for it, which was a whole $1 more than it was worth. So that's the lesson I learned from that experience. Do some research first, for goodness sake, before purchasing a game. Sometimes the research will lead you astray, but at least you have better odds. There's no way I'd have purchased that game today if I'd read about it first. Indeed, I would have run screaming in the other direction, which is what I recommend everyone else do if you should ever have the misfortune to come face to face with Road to the White House. Well, that will do it for episode 6. Thanks for joining me. Feel free to join the Out of the Dust Podcast Guild at BoardGameGeek.com. Follow the podcast on Twitter at OutOfTheDustBGG. Leave a comment at the Guild. PM me on BGG under user handle Radagast14, or email me at radagast14@CenturyLink.net. And join the Out of the Dust conversation yourself at our monthly geek list at BGG. Alright, play me out, Ananda!